Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Chat About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. Today is Doctor Who Sunday. As you know, every Sunday is dedicated to just Doctor Who, and all my other content takes place during the week. The full schedule is on my channel page as to exactly what you'll be getting. Now, we're continuing on with our lowest rated series well, no, not the lowest rated series, but the lowest rated episodes from each series of each classic Doctor. And today is The Tomb of the Cybermen, and it is the lowest rated episode of Patrick Troughton for his second series, which was series 5. The Tomb of the Cybermen was directed by Maurice Barry, written by Jerry Davies and Kit Pedler, and it aired between the 2nd to the 23rd of September 1967 to 6.8 million people in the overnight viewing score, which made it the worst rated in viewership for Series 5. Now, I'm going to be missing lots out, I expect. So please do leave your comments below as to what I miss, what you think about this particular episode, and why you think this was the worst rated in the overnight viewings. The Doctor, Victoria, who has just joined the TARDIS, and Jamie land on Talos, where they find a group of archaeologists trying to break into the tomb of the Cybermen. Why are they breaking into the tomb? What is it they want with the Cybermen? And can Klieg and Kaftan truly be trusted? Well, this one is a bit of a mystery, isn't it? Well, there are a fair few mystery puzzles to solve in Doctor Who in general, but it is rather unexpected to have humans wanting to unearth the Cybermen from their tomb. The Cybermen, after all, were similar to the humans, and why on earth would humans want the Cybermen who have no reason to have any emotion to help them in the first place? Now, they do actually take their time explaining this within the story. We are left to suspect that Kaftan and Klieg and Cybermen were the ones who were up to no good. The writing hints at it in the first 3 episodes and definitely confirms that they were, acting more than suspicious and really were trying to get on the side of the Cybermen only to be betrayed by you. Well, by them, sorry, excuse me. They want to dominate the world, Klieg and Kaftan, and they think the route to it is the Cybermen. However, society and the world should know that putting your faith in emotionless robots isn't the way forward, and it seems to be what's happening in today's world for sure. However, in the case of Doctor Who, the robots, or, well, in this case, the Cybermen, displayed their one-track mind. They have not got a reason to bargain with them, particularly when the tomb was a trap for the Doctor because they had beef with him in the first place. Now, of course, there's no way the Doctor could have anticipated that. He's a very intelligent Time Lord, and his intuition was telling him to stay instead of leave. That was a risk to take, but in true Doctor fashion, he couldn't let other people's lives be in danger. That small moment of choosing to stay shows the Doctor, having his Doctor moment very early on in this episode. He doesn't trust the archaeologists, and nor does he trust the Cybermen, and rightly so. You can't have a leopard change his spots after all, and the first thing that the Cyberman controller says when leaving the honeycomb tomb is, "You will be like us." I think this Cyberman controller is actually one of my favorites in costume style. An inflated brain, like genius, quite gross as well. And part of me wishes that they had the technology back then to make his brain look more alive, pulsing and all that. But it's fine, I'll take it as it is. It was the 1960s after all. It's not today's version of makeup and technology. And the money, unlike present day Doctor Who, has definitely been spent on this episode. That much is very clear. They have a lot of robotics. I mean, a lot going on. The honeycomb tomb is actually really big as well. They very much spent money on that. They destroyed their pods very effectively, and the ice melts away really, really well. They also simply reversed the footage when the Cybermen were defeated. That was actually a bit of money saving genius right there, because back then it would have been difficult to actually have closed all of that. You can do that with CGI right now, but you couldn't have done that back then. The goo spilling out of the Cyberman's chest, they even had gas effects and pyrotechnics. The pyrotechnics for early Who was, very clear. Really early on in Who, they couldn't have done it, all that well because they didn't have that much of a handle on it. But I tell you what, now, well, for that episode, sorry, they certainly showed that they had got a lot better because they actually rigged the actress playing Kaftan with some kind of smoke effect underneath her costume, which was pretty awesome to see. So when she was shot, the smoke all went off and it was activated. Very, very good. And I tell you what, she must have had a lot of fun doing that. The effects of controlling Toberman with the Mind Zap 2 was probably one of the more expensive and more technical bits to actually include. They didn't include it once either, they did it multiple times. Whilst the Doctor has the extreme smarts to outwit the Cybermen and take control of the situation, Toberman is one of the anti heroes, so to speak, in this. He does not have much to say, but his sheer height, strength, and screen presence gives command to the screen without upstaging anyone else. He has the majority of the fight sequences in this, which are done quite well. It's not easy doing a fight sequence when your vision is impaired for the Cybermen. So being able to do that and have both actors pull that off is really good. Now, I do wish that Toberman had been left alive at the end of it, but he got his reprieve by saving them all at the end when the Doctor could not actually close the doors to the tomb. He even gets the end of the episode finished. Everyone leaves, and it's just him on the ground outside of the tomb with the Cyberman emblem. It was a bit of an unsung hero moment and possible hint at the Cybermen possibly returning. And of course, they had a shot of the Cybermat too. And I always wondered if they had found Toberman and converted him even when dead. Although I doubt it. It doesn't actually strike me as something the Cybermen would do. But that's just my head canon actually doing that. So if I go by RDD's standards of saying your canon is whatever you want it to be, that's my canon. He got turned into a Cyberman. Now, although he was the anti-hero, there were a couple of bits with Toberman that had it been done today, he would have been, having the chance to perhaps reshoot them. Now, I wouldn't change these actually because they make me chuckle. And I think they reflect the time period and the time constraints everyone was having back then in the day when filming in the studios. Towards the end of the serial, he's fighting with the Cyberman controller. There's a bit where they go off camera and a switch happens and he comes back into shot and throws a dummy instead of the actual actor playing the Cyberman controller at the control desk. Now, the dummy is so floppy and has a lot of force behind it because he's in the moment and he throws it so much so that and it hits the desk and the head detaches from the body of the dummy before hitting the deck on the floor. And then in the next shot, he's got his head reattached because it's the actor in the shot. Now, in this day and age, they probably would have actually done this with wires and a stunt double, but obviously back then they couldn't take the risk. Now, in the reverse situation where Toberman had to be lifted and thrown, they didn't swap him out for a dummy then. That time they used a pulley, which you can actually see in the shot. Now, like I say, I wouldn't actually change it for the world, but it does make me laugh every time I see it. And that's not me being inconsiderate. It's just like I really like it. Um, there are also quite a few naturally funny moments in this as well, mostly with Victoria and the Doctor. Now, earlier in the episode, we learn that the Doctor is 450 years old in human years. The Doctor and Victoria have this scene where they are just talking. Normally, the episodes are actually really fast paced because of time. However, in a moment of calm, they actually talk about Victoria's grief, for her father. A small bit of character development back then in many regards, and that was a rarity in those days for the companion. Anyway, she politely roasts the Doctor by saying, "You can't understand being so ancient." To which the Doctor responds, "Eh?" But then being the smart man he is, that he cottons on and he doesn't ridicule her for her words in any way, shape, or form. In actual fact, he uses his wiseness about his experience to try and be a father figure to help her through that grief that she is experiencing, which is good to see because the Doctor is, after all, an alien and doesn't react the same way that humans do. So the fact that he actually acknowledged that, that was really, really good. Now, Patrick Charlton's Doctor has a sense of buffoonery around him on many respects, jokey, wise, and has a tendency to have a bit of a quick temper. I said this all in the Two Doctors, I think. He shows them all in one episode. One of my favourite bits of this episode was when he got cross with Klieg, and he actually kept his anger on the tip of his tongue, but he made a joke as well at the same time, which told us, the viewer, that Klieg is annoying him. And this is what he said: keeping my eyes open and mouth shut. There are a couple of things that I don't like about this episode, though. The tendency to make Victoria the damsel in distress. They did that at least once an episode this time round, and I think that this is the common trope, especially with the female companions in classic Who, so to speak. There were also several line flubs that they had in there, and had they had time to reshoot them, then they would have redone those. But the biggest issues were there were some glaring continuity errors in this episode. I'm not going to point them out to you because I don't want you to go back looking for them and have it ruined. But I noticed them. I'm quite observant in that respect. And now it's possible that they may have run out of time, but generally, they are pretty good at keeping the continuity errors to a minimum. But this time there were quite a few noticeable ones. However, this does not actually affect the brilliance of the episode at all, in my opinion. The end line, where the Doctor casts the seed of doubt with the Cybermen possibly returning, the cliffhangers, it's fantastic. Now, I won't lie to you. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, it may be different from yours, and that's okay. The Tomb of the Cybermen has one of the best cliffhangers in Doctor Who. We know that when the episode starts, we are getting the Cybermen. We know it already. They don't beat around the bush with saying it in the episode either. Just 7 minutes in, and they're already talking about Cybermen. The only thing you do not know is when we are getting them. That's the only thing we do not know. Now, sometimes Doctor Who will give them to you immediately. Sometimes it's near the very end of the episode, like altogether. And in this case, it was more of in the middle. Although the first episode makes you think they are there immediately because it happens so fast. Jamie and Hayton are looking into the hypnosis machine. Jamie presses a button and bam, the Cyberman is suddenly there, shoots Hayton, and the episode ends with the viewer thinking it's actually a Cyberman. But it's not. It's a total red herring. Very clever. And it makes their return in the honeycomb tomb even more scary. And I can't imagine what families were actually thinking at the time. Now, what makes this the lowest rated episode of Series 5? Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's the fact that this episode is bad. This episode is far from bad. It's actually one of my favorites. I think it's actually because this was the first one in Series 5. So I think that's the main reason. It may not have had as much promotion and it may have had a schedule conflict. But the writing for this episode and the characters and the set, they're all pretty tight. So I think it's more to do with the fact that it was the first episode of Series 5 that actually made that happen. That's what I think. Let me know what you think. Head on over to the community page to vote on the current poll. If you are just here for Doctor Who, then I will see you next Sunday at 4 p.m. If you're here for everything else, then I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Remember to chat about it, don't shout about it, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.